big game in the Big Apple on San Antonio Sports Leader 1250 ESPN San Antonio. Powered by the Low T Center, Buffalo Wild Wings, and AA Best Bail Bonds.
Welcome back on 1250 ESPN San Antonio, ESPNSA.com, and Dana White, president of UFC, joining us right here via the BrownDodge.com hotline. And Dana, surveying the landscape of professional sports in this country, there seems to be, Roger Goodell, very polarizing figure in this country, especially from the fan base. David Stern, Bud Selig. You, on the other hand, seem to have fan support along with support of your athletes. What is it about UFC? Is it just, especially relative to the landscape of the other professional sports, relative to the popularity of those commissioners, presidents?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer, though. I don't know. I mean, people love the UFC. I think the people who are hardcores have this feeling like, they're such a part of it. And I listen to them. I mean, I hear the hardcores. I have since day one. I interact with the fans a lot. And I don't know. Maybe that's it. I don't understand why. It just is. Is
it just maybe where UFC came from to where it is today as opposed to the NFL?
Yeah, it could be that too. And again, the fans always feel like they're like they helped build this thing. And every time I go out, like when we go to an event, when I walk out to the end of the event, people are going crazy and they're just having so much fun, and it's awesome. I mean, I really love it.
You obviously have a very popular sport that's grown tremendously in the last 10, 15 years, and you make a lot of money from pay-per-views, and you have a TV contract on a network now on Fox. But when people identify their favorite sports, there was a Harris poll the other day, the NFL's number one by far.
Right.
And then it's like Major League Baseball, and then you've got like the NHL and auto racing and NBA are all kind of grouped together. How do you get UFC to sort of take the next step to become a mainstream sport on the level of some of those others?
Well, I think, we just got to keep plugging along. We've only been here for 13 years,
yeah.
And we didn't even get on TV till 2005, when you think about that. And where we sit now and how well we're doing. But we continue to like the other night we were on Fox. We had a Fox, we were number one, on all of television Saturday night. So, the main events, during the main event, Henderson and Thompson, it got up to 5.6 million viewers. You keep doing that. You just keep grinding. You keep building stars. You keep doing your thing, and the sport will grow.
Right now, most of your high-profile fights are on pay-per-view. Do you anticipate a day where UFC will be like the NFL, where it will be on network TV for all the big fights, or is it just so profitable in pay-per-view that it's tough to walk away from that?
Who knows? Who knows where this thing's going? Obviously, the thing does really well on TV. I mean, look what we did the other night. Imagine if we were putting, Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman on Fox. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. We'll see where this goes. I mean, people are paying $9 billion.
Yeah.
For the rights to the NFL. So trust me.
Right.
I promise you, we do a deal for $9 billion. I'll put all the fights on. I'll put all the fights on TV for free. I promise.
Dana White, president of UFC, joining us right here on the Hardline, 1250 ESPN San Antonio. People who know you're a big boxing fan. You're a boxing historian in some ways. If you look at where boxing was in the fabric of this country, its personalities, where it came from, Ali. Today, while maybe the pay-per-view numbers for boxing are still pretty high, and boxers will tell you that.
Still pretty high for a couple of guys. Manny Pacquiao will do some good numbers. Floyd fights Canelo, and they do huge numbers.
Right.
But they're doing one big fight a year.
Yeah.
We do 44 fights a year, and 13 of them are pay-per-view. You know what I mean? So, big difference.
Well, and I guess my question is has UFC kind of taken over maybe what boxing was? You've got a guy like Chael Sonnen who is just, we've interviewed him. I mean, he's an unbelievable personality. You've got, a great fighter in Anderson. So I mean, is that, do you think that UFC has kind of taken over a niche that boxing had used in this country?
Well, I think what boxing did is, they got greedy. And I became a big boxing fan because all the fights were on ABC's Wide World of Sports. They had big fights on there. Then once that pay-per-view model came, nothing went to pay-per-view, man. So they took this, they had this following that was this big, and then whittled it down to this over that last 35, 40 years. You know what I mean? We're doing the exact opposite. Guess what? Unless you're the NFL, you're not making huge money on television, okay? It's not happening. So you got to take it on the chin sometimes and throw fights, big free fights on free TV for people. And that's what we do. That's what we've done. We brought big fights back to free TV.
When you look at the UFC's popularity, it's very popular all over. It's popular in San Antonio where we are, and there's been talk that it's going to happen at the Alamo Dome. There was a recent scavenger hunt for tickets. Do you have a date set or a card that's lining up for San Antonio?
I'll tell you what, we don't hate Texas, man. Last time we were in Houston, we brought Cain Velasquez down there with Junior Dos Santos. Things sold out like that. Johnny Hendricks versus Robbie Lawler is happening in Dallas. Sold out like that. I can't wait for San Antonio, man. We've been to Houston before. We've been to Dallas before. Now it's time for San Antonio.
But no date at this point.
No, even we did a fight down in Austin, Texas. We killed it down there. So Texas is very nice to us, man. I can't wait.
And San Antonio is a pretty big boxing city, so I mean, naturally, it would seem like UFC would be a good fit for San Antonio. Dana White, president of UFC, kind enough to join us right here on 1250 ESPN San Antonio, ESPNSA.com. Everybody saw Anderson Silva's gruesome injury. You've said he'll be back before the end of this calendar year. So I mean, that seems unbelievable considering the nature of the injury.
Think about this. You blow your ACL out, you're out for a year and 3 months, right? You break your leg, you're back. It's a broken bone. It's weird to see a leg break in that spot. It's not fun, but
it was a clean break, though.
And it's funny because people talk about the gruesomeness of UFC because of that, and then you watch the NFL and you just see a guy get knocked out cold, all the time. But somehow people are differentiating that.
Was Silva? He's arguably been the biggest star in UFC of the last 10, 15 years, at least one of them, and he was so dominant for so long. But then and I know you've stated this publicly, it was almost like he just got complacent and he started just toying with people, and his fights became, quite honestly, boring to watch because he would just toy with guys. What happened to his psyche? Do you think it was just he got bored and then he's had a wake-up call now?
I don't know. I mean, well, he had a couple of moments there. Like Abu Dhabi was terrible when he did that in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And he had like two of those moments and I flipped out. But every fight after that, I mean, look what he did to Vitor Belfort. He started knocking everybody out. And I mean, the best way I can describe it, the guy's like dealing with an artist, He's an artist with his hands and feet, and
so he's got a little diva in him.
He's had his moments. Yeah, he's had his moments.
But I mean, it seems like you're president, but you're also kind of a coach. I mean, like you're calling out Anderson Silva. Like Misha, we interviewed Misha Tate. She said, that you said that, she'd never fight women's MMA.
Right.
I mean, is that kind of your role, maybe to be a coach a little bit, fire these guys up?
I would say that is definitely my role, and I definitely do that. And I have to remind guys why we're here and what we're doing. And contrary to popular belief, these guys are making a lot of money. A lot of money. And once a guy starts to make a lot of money, you start to feel like you're bigger than you really are, and the sport is bigger than it really is. And you start, and I'm the wake-up call guy.
Before we wrap it up, a big event this week here in this area, UFC 169. Why should people tune into this one?
Well, we were just talking about Renan Barão. Renan Barão hasn't lost in almost 9 years. Uriah Faber has won 5 fights in the last 10 months. He's never looked better. I love when two of the best in the world meet in their prime. That's what this fight's going to be. And Jose Aldo, who's fighting the co-main event as a champion, hasn't lost a fight in 8 years.
Wow.
Going in against Lamas. And the two big boys, the heavyweights, Alistair Overeem and Frank Mir. That is going to be crazy.
Does Faber need to win this one? I mean, he's lost a lot of big fights, but he's so popular.
Yeah, well, if you look at how he's worked his way back up to this title shot, it would definitely be really good for him if he won this fight.
All right, Dana, 0% chance you're rooting for Peyton after he beat your...
That's funny. You know what?
Your Patriots, right?
Pete Carroll had us out in Seattle and toured us through the place and hung out with him. I like him and I'd love to see him win the thing. But at the same time, how do you root against Peyton Manning? I mean, even though he beat my Patriots, man, it's tough to root. The season that he's had, what he's overcome, tough to root against them.
Dana White, president of UFC, unbelievable to see the growth in your sport over the short amount of time. Can't wait to see where it goes from here. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.